AITA for leaving my entitled girlfriend after she said I needed her more? I do not know the exact moment everything started to change. If I think about it carefully, there was not a clear point, no single event I could point to as the beginning. It was slow, progressive, almost invisible at first. So much so that for weeks I convinced myself it was nothing, that maybe we were just going through a weird phase. My name is Brandon, I am 31 years old, and I work as an independent financial advisor. I am not rich, but I have spent years building a stable client portfolio, enough to live comfortably without constant worries. Before Jessica came into my life, I already had a pretty organized routine, a quiet house in a suburban neighborhood outside Atlanta, controlled expenses, and a stability that had taken me time to achieve. When we started living together, everything was clear from the beginning. There were no arguments or tensions about money. I proposed covering all the main expenses, the mortgage, utilities, food, and other household costs. I did not do it out of obligation or pressure, but because I could do it without a problem. To me, it made no sense to split bills when the income difference was obvious. Jessica worked, yes, but at that time her salary was quite low. She admitted it herself. She was the one who suggested balancing the situation in another way. She offered to take care of most of the household chores. I did not see it as a condition, but as a practical agreement. Even so, I never left everything in her hands. I cooked some days, cleaned when I could, and did the grocery shopping when I got off work. We worked well together. There was a sense of balance, of mutual respect. Over time, I also helped her with something important. Since she had no credit history, no bank would approve her for a card. She asked for my support to start building it, and I agreed. I added her as an authorized user on 2 of my credit cards. I made sure to explain everything to her. Limits, payment dates, interest rates. I did not want her to depend on me without understanding how it worked. At first, she was very responsible. She used the cards carefully, for groceries, moderate personal items, and gas for her car. She always let me know there was transparency. That is why, when things started to change, I did not notice it right away. The first real change came when she got a better job at a busy, popular restaurant downtown. It was a lively place with a great atmosphere, and above all, better tips. I remember she was excited. She talked about independence, about growing, about not depending so much on anyone. I was genuinely happy to see her like that. The first few weeks were normal. She would come home tired, but motivated. She told me stories about work, difficult customers, nice ones, new coworkers. But little by little, her way of expressing herself began to change. It was not sudden, it was subtle. She started repeating certain ideas more frequently. The importance of not depending on anyone, of having her own things, of not getting used to someone else solving everything. I did not disagree with that. In fact, I thought it was positive. The problem was not the content, it was the tone. She no longer set it as a personal goal, but as a kind of indirect criticism. Then new friendships appeared. 3 coworkers from the restaurant she started spending more and more time with. I did not meet them right away, but their names started appearing constantly in our conversations. According to Jessica, they were strong, confident women who did not let anyone control them. At first, I saw nothing wrong with that, until I started noticing how those ideas began reflecting in her behavior. The first obvious change was at home. She stopped doing the chores she naturally used to do, not overnight, but progressively. One day the kitchen was dirty, and she did not clean it. I figured she had a heavy shift. I said nothing. Another day the laundry was left unwashed. Then another, and another. When I finally asked her, her answer was simple. I have been working all day. I am tired. I understood it. But something did not fit. That logic only applied to her. I also worked all day, and yet, when I saw something pending, I did it. Without realizing it, the responsibilities we used to share started falling almost entirely on me. And the most uncomfortable part was not that. It was that she stopped acknowledging it. Before, there was an intention of balance. Now she acted as if it were normal, as if I should do it without questioning. The next change was with the cards. At first, as I said, she was responsible, but over time the expenses started to increase, not exaggeratedly at first, but enough to draw attention. More frequent purchases, less necessary items, more constant outings. When I checked the statements, charges appeared that we had not discussed. The first time I mentioned it to her, her reaction was immediate. I work too. I have the right to spend on myself. I did not say no, but I reminded her of something important. The cards are in my name. We need to maintain some control. She did not like it. Her expression changed. There was annoyance, but also something else, a sort of silent contempt. From then on, arguments started appearing. They were not huge fights. They were constant small frictions, uncomfortable comments, long silences, a tension building up little by little, and above all, an increasingly clear feeling that her way of seeing me was changing. The point where everything became obvious arrived one weekend. Jessica informed me, she did not ask, that she was going to invite her friends over to the house. She said it casually, as if it were completely normal. I did not object. In the end, it was her space too, or at least that is what I thought at the time. That Saturday they arrived in the afternoon. The moment they walked in, I noticed something different in the atmosphere. Jessica was different, more confident, yes, but not in a natural way. There was something forced in her attitude, as if she were playing a role. I tried to be polite, I greeted them, offered drinks, tried to join the conversation, but it quickly became clear that I was not welcome in that dynamic. There were glances, comments between them, little laughs that were not openly offensive, but not neutral either. It was a kind of disguised contempt. At one point, Jessica decided to introduce me formally. She stood up, raised her glass, and with a smile I disliked from the very first second, she said, "I present to you Brandon, the one who keeps all of this running." The others laughed. It was not an uncomfortable laugh. It was natural, as if it were a perfectly valid comment. I stayed silent. I waited for her to correct it, to clarify it was a joke. She did not. She kept talking as if nothing happened. At that moment I felt something strange, but it was not anger yet. It was more like discomfort that was hard to explain. I decided not to react. After that, I stood up and went to the bedroom. I did not want to argue in front of them. I closed the door calmly and stood in silence for a few seconds. From the living room, I could hear laughter, music, glasses clinking. To them, nothing had happened. To me, it had. I sat on the bed trying to sort out what I was feeling. It was not just annoyance. It was a mix of disappointment and an uncomfortable feeling of being reduced to something I was not. A few minutes passed. I did not know exactly why, but I got up. Maybe because something still did not add up. I opened the door carefully and walked down the hallway without making a sound. I did not go straight into the living room. I stayed far enough away to listen without being seen. "Do not you think he got mad about what you said?" one of her friends asked. There was a brief pause. Jessica's voice answered calmly, "No. If he complains, I already know how to calm him down." The others laughed. I felt something tense up inside me. "How?" another asked. Jessica let out a short laugh. "Simple. I stopped talking sweetly to him for a couple of days, and then, you know." More laughter. "Men are too easy," another added. "Exactly," Jessica continued. "Besides, I already have him doing everything around the house. He has to contribute something." That sentence made me frown. "But did not you say he pays for almost everything?" one asked. "Yes, but that does not count," she replied. "He was already doing that before. I work now too." There was a brief silence, and then another voice. "So, it is pretty convenient for you." Jessica did not hesitate. "Of course. As long as it works, why change it?" The three of them laughed again, but this time it was not uncomfortable anymore. It was clear, too clear. At that moment something changed in me. It was not anger. It was something colder, more definitive, as if everything finally clicked into place. Then, Jessica spoke again. "Do you want to see how controlled I have him?" "Yes," they replied almost at the same time. I stood frozen. I knew what was coming. A second later, her voice rose. "Brandon, can you come here for a moment?" I took a deep breath. I took a few steps back and then walked toward the living room, making a little noise, as if I had just left the bedroom. When I walked in, they all looked at me. "Yes?" I asked calmly. Jessica smiled. "Babe, one of my friends is not feeling well. Can you go buy her something at the pharmacy?" I looked at her for a few seconds. "Why do not you go?" I replied calmly. "If you are going out later, you can take advantage of the trip." Her smile tightened slightly. "I am busy," she said. "Me too," I replied. I turned around. There was no anger in my voice, only clarity. I had barely taken 3 steps when her tone changed completely. "Brandon." I stopped. "It is not a suggestion," she added. "It is a favor I am asking you." I turned around slowly. "And I already answered you." There was an awkward silence. Her friend stopped smiling. Jessica held my gaze. She was not used to being told no. Are you really doing this right now? She muttered. I did not answer. I turned around again, and this time I did not stop. I did not quite close the bedroom door. Before doing so, I heard her voice again, louder, more loaded. Of course, lately he is not even good for that. The laughter did not take long to appear. I stood still for a few seconds, not out of doubt, but because in that instant I understood there was nothing left to salvage. I went back. I did not run. I did not make unnecessary noise. I simply walked back to the living room. All four of them fell silent when they saw me. Jessica crossed her arms trying to keep a firm expression, but it was no longer the same confidence as before. What are you trying to do with all this? I asked. My voice was calm, but direct, straight to the point. What are you talking about? She replied. About this, I said, pointing at the room. About the way you talk about me, about what you say when you think I am not listening. Her expression barely changed. Are you exaggerating? I shook my head. No, I heard everything. The silence grew heavy. Her friends avoided looking directly at me. So what if you heard? She finally replied. I did not say anything that is not true. That was what ended up confirming everything. I stared at her. Do you really believe that? Of course, she replied without hesitation. I contribute too. I am not a burden. I never said you were. But you think it. No, I replied. What I think is that you have been taking advantage of the situation. The atmosphere tensed immediately. How convenient, one of her friends said quietly. I paid no attention to her. You pay for everything because you want to, Jessica continued. Nobody forces you. Correct, I replied. But that does not give you the right to disrespect me. Oh, please, she rolled her eyes. It was a joke. No, I said. It was not. There was a brief silence. Then I added without raising my voice. We are done. Jessica blinked. What? It is over, I repeated. This. Us. The words hung in the air. For a second, nobody reacted. You cannot be serious, she said. I am. You cannot end it like this, she insisted. You are reacting out of pride, right? No, I replied. I am reacting out of respect. Her friends exchanged glances. One of them chimed in. You are such an exaggerator. I ignored her. Jessica took a step toward me. You need me more than you think. That phrase, that was the final piece. I looked at her without emotion. For what? She did not answer. Because if we are honest, I continued, lately the only thing you have done is subtract. Her expression changed. For the first time all night, there was no confidence. There was something closer to uncertainty. You cannot say that, she muttered. Yes, I can, I replied. And I am saying it right now. A long silence followed. Then I pointed to the door. You can leave. One of her friends reacted immediately. What a weak man you are. Another shook her head. Now we understand everything. I did not reply. I had nothing to prove to them. Jessica held my gaze for a few more seconds. There was anger, yes, but also surprise. As if she had not expected the situation to go this far. She finally grabbed her purse. Let us go, she said. Her friends did not argue. They stood up, gathered their things, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, one of them shot me a final look full of contempt. The door closed and the silence returned, but this time it was not uncomfortable. It was clear, necessary. I stood there for a few seconds breathing. Then I went to the bedroom, grabbed my phone, and called the bank. There was no drama, no doubts, just concrete steps. I want to cancel 2 authorized user cards, I said when they answered. Identity verification. Data confirmation. They tried to offer a temporary block. I rejected it. Permanent cancellation. In less than 10 minutes, everything was resolved. I hung up and with that, I closed one of the last remaining ties. The next morning, I changed the locks. It was not an impulse, it was a practical decision. I did not want unnecessary arguments or uncomfortable situations inside the house. While the locksmith worked, I gathered her things, clothes, personal items, some bathroom stuff. I did not dig too much, just what was necessary. I put them in a large bag and left it by the door. I did not feel bad. I felt organized, as if for the first time in weeks, everything made sense again. That afternoon, around 6, there was a knock on the door. I knew who it was. I looked through the peephole, Jessica. I took a deep breath, opened the door, but I did not move from the frame. I did not let her in. What are you doing? She said, trying to come inside. I extended my arm, blocking the way. You are not coming in. She frowned. What are you talking about? I live here. I shook my head. You lived here. Her expression changed instantly. This again. I did not answer. Then she saw the bag. What is that? Your things. She looked at me in disbelief. Are you serious? Yes. Her tone rose. You changed the lock too. Yes. Silence. Brief, tense. And the cards? She asked. Did you cancel them too? Yes. You cannot do that, she said. I used them. Exactly, I replied. You used them. You are exaggerating. I shook my head. No, I am setting boundaries. That phrase threw her off. She was not used to hearing me like that. This is crazy, she muttered. No, I replied. This is the end. She stood in silence for a few seconds, perhaps waiting for me to change my mind. I did not. She finally grabbed the bag reluctantly. This is not over, she said. I did not answer. She turned around and left. I closed the door, and for the second time in a short while I felt like something was falling into place. I thought everything would end there. I was wrong. 2 days passed, total silence, no messages, no calls, nothing. For a moment, I thought everything had ended in the best possible way given what had happened. I was wrong. The second night, around 3 in the morning, a noise woke me up. At first I thought it had been a dream, but it returned. A faint sound, like something scraping against glass. I sat up slowly without making a sound. The house was completely dark. The sound was coming from the living room. I walked carefully down the hallway, and when I peeked out, I saw her. Jessica was coming in through the window. She had opened it from the outside and was trying to climb in carefully, as if she did not want to make any noise. For a second, I stood in silence processing the scene. Then I spoke. Are you serious? She startled. She turned her head toward me. Brandon, she said, I just came to talk. I took a step forward. This is not talking. This is breaking into my house. I am not breaking in, she replied quickly. I just needed to see you. I shook my head. I pulled out my phone. I am going to call the police. Her expression changed immediately. Do not do that. I am already doing it. Do not exaggerate, she insisted. I just came to fix things. I did not reply. I dialed. It was at that moment when she moved toward me. The situation escalated quickly. She pulled something out of her bag and used a stun device on me. I felt a sudden intense jolt that caused my muscles to tense uncontrollably, making me lose my balance and fall. It was a disorienting experience that left me struggling to regain control. She repeated the action. The shock and loss of control over my body were overwhelming. My breathing became irregular, and everything felt chaotic. She was frantic. I just want you to listen to me, she kept repeating. But there was no way to respond clearly. Then, sirens were heard in the distance. She stopped, looked toward the door. Did you call? She asked tensely. I did not answer. I could not. The sirens were approaching fast. Very fast. Knocking on the door. Police. She tried to compose herself, but it was too late. They forced their way in. 2 officers entered and assessed the situation in seconds. Me on the floor, her standing, the device still in her hand. Drop it, they ordered. She did not resist. They arrested her right there. What followed was a long process, longer than I expected. At first, it seemed like everything would end in a minor charge, a warning, a restraining order, nothing more. But I did not leave it at that, not for revenge, but because what she did was not minor. She had broken into the house and created an unsafe situation that could have been much worse. I gathered everything. The medical report from my doctor visit, the call log from when I dialed emergency services, the officer's statements. I insisted. I pushed until the case moved forward. It was finally reclassified as a more serious assault. The result arrived months later. 2 years in prison. It was not immediate, but it was clear. The last time I saw her was during the trial. She looked at me with hatred. This is not over, she said. When I get out, you are going to pay. I did not reply. I had nothing to say. 3 years have passed since then. I have not heard from her again. No messages, no calls, nothing. And honestly, that is fine, because there are things that are not fixed, are not negotiated, are not repeated, they simply end. Comment. Hey everyone, after reflecting on this story, I wanted to share something honest with you. Self-respect is something we should never compromise in any relationship. Setting clear boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary to protect your peace and well-being. I truly believe we all deserve to be treated with genuine kindness and respect. Choosing your own peace sometimes requires difficult decisions, but those choices often lead to real healing. Taking responsibility for your happiness is one of the most empowering things you can do. Never be afraid to walk away from situations that drain your spirit and energy. Healing takes time, so be patient and kind to yourself through the process. I hope this encourages you to look at your own relationships with fresh eyes. You are worthy of calm, balanced, and loving connections in your life. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.